Good, good. So, good evening, everyone. I hope you had a fantastic weekend, and I think you are all happy with the journey that you're actually moving. I'm teaching you basics of programming here. By the end of this series, which will take almost like 2 months or 3 months, you'll be completely good with JavaScript, and you'll not be referring yourself each and every time, Googling how to do stuff because you have been following me, and this is how it goes. So today, I'll teach you something called this one will be number 6. So this is 6 functions. We want to know a thing called functions. What are functions anyway? So I'll rename this iteration to number 5. I should have said this should be number 5. So if you are reading this notes step by step, but the next thing you have to create is a function. So what is a function? Let's create a function.js here. And then inside here, what we will do, um, let's try to start learning functions, okay? So, um, okay, Brian, did you join? Okay, it's not you. I think it's another Brian. All right. So the first thing is you use a function keyword to define a function, okay? First, what is a function anyway? Okay, if I may say, like, what is a function? Okay, like okay, a function basically is, I can say it's a block of code, okay, that actually um it actually like defines how you actually need to execute a certain type of code, okay? When you say, for example, what is your functionality of how you want the flow of this code to actually go, that's how I can say, that's how I can define a function. I don't want to actually use definitions here as if I'm using ChatGTP or I'm using a textbook or anything. I'll just try to tell you the basic function of something. Okay. A function is something that actually functions to do something. Okay. That's how I can say it's a function, right? So for example, what is the function of a teacher is to teach. What's the function of a television is to show some news. So the function actually, it does some kind of functionality to your code. Okay, so it basically does some functionality, okay, to your code. All right, so we can do some functionality to a function. And to actually, if you want to create a function, okay, use a function keyword. Use a function keyword. All right. So you can use a function keyword to actually create a function. For example, I can come here and say function. Okay. Then give the name of the function. Name of function. In JavaScript, you can either do this name underscore of function. Okay. Like the way they do it in Python. Or you can also combine them and then each and every letter give it a capital, like name of function. But I think this one is much better. Okay. Name of function. And after that, you put the curly braces, okay? And then you put the parentheses. These are the parentheses, and then you put the curly braces like that, okay? So that's how you have named a function. Then write your code here. Write your code, okay, to run a function. So basically, that's how you create a function. Okay, you have a function, and then you have the name of the function, and then it does something into that function. For example, we could be having a function that is trying to show some message, right? So let's create a function, and we'll just name it to the function, and then we'll put the name of the function. For example, like show message. Okay, we'll say show message, and then inside this show message, we will try to log some message. For example, console.log, and I will say hello, hello world. Okay. So, but just how can I actually run a function right now? If you want to run a function, all you have to do, okay, all you have to do to run a function. Let me ask one of you, Nora, can you see my screen? Maybe you are not seeing my screen and I'm just talking. Can you see my screen?
Can see your screen. I can see your screen,
Good, good.
Daddy.
Thank you. Sure. Now, basically, let's go ahead and run this function. We'll come and say here, show message. Just call that function the way it is and then put the parentheses like that. By just doing that, you are executing, okay? Executing the function, okay? By just doing that, you're executing the function. Okay, let's go ahead and run this. We'll do this. Now you can see here, it said hello world. It printed that function. By just saying function and then inside, put the name of the function, put the parentheses, all right? And then inside the curly braces, put the code that you want to write. And then how do you execute the function? You execute the function by actually calling it later outside that function and then putting the curly braces. So what happens if you call the function without, let's call the function without the curly braces, without the parentheses. Parentheses. All right, I hope that's the function. Let's just say show message like that. What happens when you just call a function without let's say the parentheses? This is an error that most of people who are actually experienced with writing JavaScript, I also run into this problem most of the time where I've written a very big function, but now I'm wondering like, why is my function not returning my promise? Why is my function not returning the functionality of what I actually want? And then I come to realize like, oh, it's because I did not actually pass in the parentheses. When you run this, you can see it will not actually show you any message here. It will just print this hello world, okay? It just printed this hello world. But for this, it did not actually show anything. Why? Okay, why is it like this? Now, if we actually go ahead and do this, and we say, let's go ahead and open, okay, this won't allow us to actually paste some code. I will open this and I will right click and inspect. Then I will come here on console as usual. So I will clear. Then I will copy all the code that I have from here. Copy it, Control C, and then I'll come here and paste it. All right. Now, when I run this, let me run it. And you can see it printed for me hello world for the first one because it is executing, I passed in the curly braces. For the second one, it is printing the function itself. It's saying show message. It's printing that code itself like this. It's returning or it's printing what can I say, the function itself. Okay, so this will actually do this is what it will print. Okay, so be careful when you're actually writing functions. Don't forget to actually pass in the parentheses, and you'll be okay, because it will actually not output the function, but it will output that function itself. All right, so I think we are actually understanding what I'm trying to say. Okay, this will print the function itself. Okay, itself like that. So just be careful whenever you're doing that. Whatever we have been writing here is what is called a normal function. All right, I'll show you something called an immediately invoked function. Okay, is it an IIF? I don't know. Is it an IMF? Anyway, I don't care. I told you, I basically don't care about definitions or anything. But what I always care about is, do I actually know the functionality behind it? And that's what actually is really, really important. An immediately invoked function is a function that is immediately invoked without actually being called. Okay, this is a function that is immediately invoked. Okay, without calling it later. Let's give an example. How do we write an immediately invoked function? This is how you write it. You write it like this, if I'm not wrong, where inside you have a function, okay? And this function may be a function and name function. This is just a name of that function anyway. So you have your functionality here of that function. Then after that, you close that function, then you pass in like that. So this is an immediately invoked function. All right. And if you want to actually understand that this is an immediately invoked function, let's come back to we'll come back here. Let's clear and let's run this immediately invoked function. Let's run it. You can see it's saying undefined because there's no data that was actually passed inside it. So it is immediately executed even without actually, you don't need to actually come here and pass it like this and say like the way we passed message. Okay, this is an immediately invoked function. Now, if this is the formula of an immediately invoked function, let's write an immediately invoked function that is doing the same way of showing a message, but now we will not call it like this. Now we'll come here and say function show message immediately. Okay, and this is basically a function, and inside here we will just log and say let's write our message and say I was called immediately. All right, and then what we'll do is we will close that with the parentheses and then pass in the parentheses like that. Let's go ahead and do this. Let's clear. Let's run. And you can see it's saying here, type error, show message is not a function. Where is it? There's an error here that is saying show error, type error message is not a function. Show message. I don't get it. Sometimes Node is always crazy with such stuffs. Let me just go ahead and run it from this side. And let me clear here and just let me run it. And you can see here it's running. I've never known what is the problem with Node whenever you actually write something and then it tells you this thing is actually wrong or maybe there's a problem. And then when you go and run it on the console, it actually runs. So don't worry. I just wanted to show you like this one, this is a code that was immediately invoked without actually calling this show message immediately. How? Because you actually wrapped it inside the parentheses, and then you wrapped it again inside the parentheses itself. When is this important, and how are they how are this important? I'll show you a scenario of how important let me give you an example of such a case. All right, I'll just show you one of the code where I will show you an example of such an invoked function. Give me some second. Where was I? Was it on Docker, GraphQL, JavaScript, MongoDB, JS? All right, let me show you an example of a MongoDB example here, and I'll show you what I mean basically. Control A, Control C. Let me show you an example of this. This is find replace.js. Okay, I'll put it inside this function. All right, let me write. This is a function, and you can see what did I do here, step by step of what is actually happening here. I'm connecting to a database called MongoDB, and I'm just calling MongoDB client so that I can be able to connect to that MongoDB. For you to connect to MongoDB, you have to connect to a certain URL, and then I'm basically creating the connection of MongoDB by creating a client to that MongoDB client that I actually required. Don't worry about that. But you can see here, what did I create? I created a function that is immediately invoked. Once you run this application, immediately calls insert documents, and then it inserts into that MongoDB client. Okay, so by accessing the database, you create a new client of that DB of the blog, of the document that you have. Then you will create a collection by calling the database by creating another collection, because you create collections inside databases. My database is my blog, and then I'm creating a collection of users. You can be having many collections like users, products, whatever. Then inside it, I'm just passing, I'm just saying like from that collection, find for me the collection where all collections where age are greater than 30. This is just a query that you are finding documents matching a query using greater than operation. And then it's awaiting these results here. that, and then you are going, what I'm doing here with a dot for each, which we will learn later on when we are learning arrays. You're basically going to each and every element, okay? I will have used for off, or I mean the other one, like for, I mean for in, the for loop. I could have used for loop here and then accessed each and every index of that document, but I just used for each, and then I'm logging in the documents, and that's what I did here. Then immediately invoking that function over here the way I'm using it. So you can see whatever I'm actually teaching you guys over here, it is practical. You will come and meet it later on. I don't teach things that will not actually come and meet them in your life. Okay? So whatever I'm actually teaching you, you'll actually come and use it. That's why I'm saying that you have to understand whatever I'm trying to teach right now so that you can come later on and actually use it. But how will you use it? When you combine whatever I've been teaching you from here to whatever we'll do here, even if we reach to number 16, when you combine them together, now you'll be able to be doing such things, and you'll be looking at this code and you'll be like, oh, I know what it is trying to do. But for now, I know you're actually totally confused. This is an immediately invoked function that you don't need to actually call like this. I think this is making sense, and it's making more sense. All right. I think that's making more sense. Now, just to continue. Yeah. Okay. Just to continue on functions. Let's create a function today, and this function that we will create, it will calculate the total marks. Okay. I have 9 minutes because Zoom is always giving us for 90 minutes, but I'll quickly create a function, and then before this 9 minutes actually end, we will have actually learned how to do it. Okay. If God blesses us, we will buy more what can I call an upgrade on this Zoom, because Zoom is much beautiful than Teams. I don't like Teams the way it is. It is taking a lot of data, and also it is displaying our names. It is disrupting our own internal businesses the way it should not be doing like that. Let's create let's say here, let total is equal to 0. I have this right now, we don't have any totals for our marks. Then I will create a marks list of items like this. I'll say I have all my marks, like mark list is equal to 45, 67, 84, 24, and 78. The next thing I'll do is I'll create a function that will calculate the total marks that we have here. I'll say function total marks. Okay. It's a function that is calculating total marks. Total marks, it will be expecting an array of mark lists. So I'll say here marks, okay? I'll pass in something called an argument. Now, functions can also contain arguments. So this marks is what we'll pass over here. So when we call total marks, it will be expecting some arguments here. I can call them marks argument, like this. All right, so with this marks argument, let's go ahead and do this. All right, so with the marks argument, then we can say, let's put a for loop. We remember I told you when we are creating a for loop, all we have to do is, let's go back to our iterations here. Inside our for loop, we have to do this. Let index is equal to this and that. I'll copy that and I'll come here and paste it. And I'll explain it to you. Let index is equal to 0. Index is less than the max argument, okay? Dot length, and then index plus plus. Are you getting it? The argument that you are passing inside that total marks is what has to be used, okay? An argument has to be used inside the function. Good. So this is what we will use inside our function. Now, we know very well how to do a for loop because we have been doing it before. When you go to iterations, you will do some code inside that code. For example, if you want to access all the marks, you'll do this. So I'll come back to the marks here and I'll say, I want you to actually add the total, because now total is 0, right? Total is 0. Now total is equal to total. I'll say total is equal to total plus all the marks, okay? All these marks here of this argument, okay? Marks argument, and then inside it, I will pass in the index, okay? So it will loop at 0. it will say total is 0 plus the max at 0, which is 45. And then it will loop again. Total now is 45 plus the max at the index of 1, because now we have said index plus 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 plus. So it will take 45 plus 67. And then it will loop again. It will say now total is 45 plus 67. Maybe if it is 100 or whatever, I think it is 103. It will be 103 plus the max at index at 2, because it is still looping. So it will continue with the loop for all this max argument until where the index is less than max of argument dot length, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, until 5. So at 5 it will break, it will not continue. So it will return all that to that total. Good. Now the next thing what you have to do is, once you have the whole total, we have to put something called a return keyword. A return keyword, okay, return keyword is used, okay, to return value to that function. That's what it is used for. So we need to return this keyword to return some value. What value do we need to return to this total? Of course, it is the total max. So we will return total. We come here and say return total. Now, once we return total, we have to call total max over here so that we can execute it. But now total max is expecting something inside it. Over here, we just said we are passing an argument. This argument is what has to now here pass in the real data. Okay, pass in the real data. Okay, simulating the argument. Okay, from the function. Now I'll be like, okay, now I have to pass in the real data inside this total max, and this, it is expecting an array of list of max. So I'll pass in some max here. I'll go ahead and do this. I will run this program. Okay, I will click here and run this program. But this program is breaking over here because I don't know, because of this. I think it is this function on line, on this line, line 28. I don't know. So because this one is actually failing, I will log it like that. I don't know why is it failing. It shouldn't be failing anyway. And you can see, okay, let me go ahead and do this. I will run this on the browser. All right, let me do that, and I will run that. You can see now the total is 298. I think there's just a problem of how things should be printing over here. So don't worry about that, but the code is actually working. I know very well because I know when the code is actually working or not working. So 298. So you can see it's actually calculated the whole max over here as the total by just creating a function. And from that function, what did we do? We defined a value here, a variable. Then inside that variable, we created another variable of mark list of an array. We created a function, and that function was expecting some argument. And then from that argument that we will pass, we are just simulating, like later on, this total max will be expecting the real data, which is the mark list. But for now, let's just pass it as an argument here. This argument, we will loop through this max argument because we know very well this is an array that it will be expecting. So if it's expecting an array, okay, we will loop through it. For each and every argument, we don't want to go past the length of that list because we need their indexes, and then we'll be accessing the indexes. Now, the total was 0. Then for each and every loop, we need to actually access and then add that value back to the total. So the first total will be the total, which is 0, plus the max at index of 0, which is 45. And then loop, continue the loop from 1, 2, 3, 4, up to 5, and then return back the total. The value will be returned back to this function. Okay, so when we come back here, the reason as to why it did not print here is because I have to say console log. Sorry, I remember that. So you have to say console log, and you have to log that whatever. You have to log that function and then pass in the max. That's the reason as to why it did not actually run. So it's also bringing some problem here. Mark list is not defined. I don't know why is it saying like that, but funny enough, when you go to the other side, it will actually print. So I think now you actually understood what I'm trying to do. Okay. Um, I just want you guys to actually understand functions. I'll give you assignments so that you can work with functions, and you can see it's printing 298. You'll be able to actually understand the whole scope of functions. We are not done yet with functions. I think just one part, and we'll do it on the next class. All right. So I will go ahead and stop sharing. I will stop the recording. I don't know how to stop the recording anyway. I'm still new to this Zoom thing. I have a lot to learn. That's why it was taking me a lot of time. All right. Oh God. I don't know. Okay.